Hey, John Hickok here. I've got my Long Branch Edition Colt single action, and I know what you're thinking. Why has he got his trigger finger in the trigger guard? What happened to his trigger discipline? Did you leave that at home or something? And here's the thing, for a Colt single action, now some of you may disagree, but on a Colt single action, it's one of the few firearms where I will actually put the common practices for trigger discipline aside if I'm in a place like this, in a controlled environment, maybe in my house and I've checked it and I know that it's unloaded, or I'm at a range and it's unloaded, or at a range and I know I've got that hammer down on an empty chamber, because the gun kind of just lends to that. It kind of feels like that's how the gun was designed, and the fact that it's single action, there's absolutely nothing unsafe about holding it this way. Now, if I'm in a gun shop and I'm handling one or looking at one or around someone I don't really know, they may not feel the same way about it, so I would respect them and go ahead and hold it like this, just out of respect. But typically, this is how I hold these guns, because that's just kind of how they're designed. The hammer, in a way, is kind of like the same as, I look at it the same way as, don't put your finger on the trigger until your eyes are on the target. The hammer is kind of that for me with a Colt single action. I would hold it like this, and I was ready to shoot, I'd cock that hammer, and then that's where I would have my eyes on the target, and I would kind of follow that same trigger discipline. But holding a single action like this in the right environment, I don't think is a bad thing. So anyways, that's just kind of how I hold them. But this is the Long Branch. It's a gun that Colt did. It's kind of like a special run that they made. They only made 300 of them, I think in like 2015, about a year ago, as I'm doing this video now. And I was just lucky enough to come across one. And I've always liked Colt single actions. I grew up with them. Dad's always owned them as long as I've been alive. Just always loved them. Grew up watching Westerns and the whole 9 yards, and just always been in love with these things. And finally had the chance to get a really nice one. I just had to, I just had to jump on it. It's just such a neat gun. And what it is the Long Branch Saloon. For those of you who don't know, it was actually a saloon in Dodge City. But it's not a wide ERP gun, which is what you might associate Dodge City with. It's actually a Bat Masterson gun. Bat Masterson, sometime in the mid-1880s, sent a letter to Colt asking them for a custom Colt single action. And this is supposedly kind of a recreation. I'm not sure exactly how accurately, but it's kind of a loose recreation, from what I've read, of that gun that he ordered. So it's kind of special. I don't know a ton about Bat Masterson yet. I'm probably gonna, having this gun will probably make me want to look up more about him, but who's an interesting character, for sure. And of course, we've all seen him portrayed in some of the movies, like I think Tom Sizemore, am I saying that right? I think he played him in the movie Wide Earp with Kevin Costner. So anyways, cool character. It's a neat gun. I'll go ahead and load her up, take a few shots with it. And of course, with a Colt single action, if it's a real Colt, now with the Ruger, you can just, at least I think most of the Rugers, you can just open the loading gate and the cylinder will turn freely. But on a real Colt action, you have to do that. Go to that second click there. That frees up the cylinder. And start out with this Federal stuff. Of course, appreciate them always. Federal Cartridge Company. And so you put that first one in, and then you skip the second chamber in the interest of safety. I'll explain that in a second if you don't know. And then put the second one in, and then keep throwing the big torpedoes in there until you see that you're hitting on another loaded chamber there. So I put that last one in, close the gate up, and then what I usually do, and I know that I've done it right, so I could go ahead and cock it and dry fire, but what I like to do is turn the gun over and then look on that side just to see that nothing weird happened, and that when I cock the hammer, it is in fact going to fall in an empty chamber. And I usually just ease it down. I mean, I could dry fire it, but I don't want to wear it out. But that's how you would want to load one of these if you were going to do literally anything else other than cock it and shoot it. If you're on the range and you're about to just load it and fire, then fine, load 6. I mean, if you were a cowboy back in the day and you were practicing with one of these things because you thought you might be in a gunfight or something with one, then you might want to make sure that was kind of part of your training, that second, after you fired those first 5, that you loaded 6 the next time. Otherwise, if you've gotten to a shootout then you'd be loading 5 each time, and it'd take more time, and you have less rounds. So that'd be something you think about in that situation. But you know, the use of these guns nowadays is to kind of appreciate history and from a collector standpoint and all that. And it's just a good habit to just load 5, because then you don't have to worry about it as long as you've got that hammer down on the empty chamber. Because these things will go off. If you drop one of these with a hammer on a live round, it's going to go off. It doesn't take much. We did some experimentation with that, I remember one day, I think for a video, I can't remember, but we took like a piece of wood and hit the back of the hammer. It surprised me. It took almost no force to make that thing fire, so that's an important part of it. Now, I don't really shoot this gun all that well, especially one-handed, but you know, that's kind of how the cowboys did it, so that's how I like to shoot it. It seems like it shoots right on if it's pointed where I want to hit when the trigger breaks. Oh, maybe I need a bigger target. All right. So this is the first one of these that I've ever owned, so still kind of getting used to it. Now when you unload the thing, put it in if you're right-handed, you put it in your left hand, you hold it, you know, kind of like this, and you just eject the rounds out. Like so. You want to kind of pop it, you know, fairly hard so that they come on out of there. Put them in the pile, load it again. I'm going to shoot some of this other stuff, fire some brand X here. Speaking of that, also, appreciate all the support from SDI. You check them out, sdi.edu. Some cool folks over there. Check out their website. This is some lighter, kind of like a cowboy load. The Federal stuff is a 225 grain, which the kind of the standard is the 250. So that's what this is. This is 250. All right. As you can see, we've got a bunch of targets here, not set up for this video. It's for another video that we're going to be doing a little bit. Some people aren't aware of this, but like whenever I do these videos for the other channel, it's always kind of like in between, you know, some other video that we're working on or something like that. So sometimes people give me a hard time for not giving all the information about the gun I'm talking about. And these videos are not about that. There'll be a full video on this gun on the main channel. So that's when we get all the info straight on it and give you guys some cool info about it. Okay. Let's see. Try the cowboy. There's a little smokier. Too fast. I think I'm a cowboy or something. These things are not as easy to shoot as they make them look in the movies, for sure. Especially with a shorter barrel. But it just takes a little getting used to. You know, I'll shoot the same type of ammo. That way I can, maybe I figure out where these things are hitting. These things are just great. I mean, anyone that grew up watching Westerns, you have to be able to appreciate these things. Okay. Well, let's go back to the bigger target. Tombstone down there. Alright, now I'll try the cowboy. There we go. Can't tell where it's going. Maybe a little high. Yeah, I think that's what it is. It's probably me. I think it shoots pretty much right on. I don't know. Try it again. I just love the grips on this thing. It's one of the things that kind of sold me on it. It's a really beautiful wood, and it, I don't know, it has an interesting feel to it because it's not like a high polish, you know, or like a, you know, it's kind of got almost a roughness to it, which is kind of neat. And I put a little oil on there, darkened them up a little bit. And of course the nickel looks pretty nice. And it's got these, I'm not 100% clear on how they do this, but it's got these like fired blue screws, as you can see, which is kind of an interesting touch. I'd never seen one like this before. Okay. See if I can hit something this round. Try this other cowboy over here. Yep. Go around in that one. Oh, see, there we go. It started getting fast. In my basketball days, we used to call that a heat check. What happens is you'll hit a few shots in a row, and then you're like, oh yeah, okay, now I remember how to do this. And then you don't try as hard on the next one, and then you miss or airball or something like that. That happens in shooting all the time to me. It's easy to forget that you got to try just as hard on every single shot. All right, well there you go. Colt single action, 45 long Colt. You know, is there any other caliber? Yes, there is, but that's the one that, you know, that's the one that we associate, of course, with that gun. And you know, if I'm gonna you know, fork over the big bucks to actually get a real Colt, it's gonna be in 45 for sure. You know, it's just something neat about that big old cartridge. Of course, it's the Federal. It's not how they would have looked back in the day. It would have been more maybe something like this, big old 250 grainer. But anyways, appreciate you guys for checking out the video, and try to bring some other stuff out for you and do kind of a quick little, you know, just here's what it is, here's a couple things about it, and have a nice day. All right, see you guys later.